Paddington Station, built by Brunel and opened in 1854, is the terminus for trains in and out to the west of London. The station's interface manager, Terry Baker, took us round to see some of the parts of the station that you could never normally get into. But before we do that, we obviously have to give a quick mention to a famous character.
I've made a friend. It's a fiberglass bench next to the statue here, but here's the thing that you should know. In the film Paddington, the Lost and Found office is shot here, what will be the arch through to Crossrail Station. Basically, when the film company realised that they needed to film Paddington, the movie, at Paddington, the station, this was one of the first negotiations they did, because basically if you can't film Paddington at Paddington Station, there's almost no point in making the film. So only when they had the agreement from the station that they could film here, could they then say, right, we can go ahead with the rest of the film.
So the first proper thing we've got to look at are what is known as the transepts in the roof.
So we've come halfway down the platforms and high up onto this slightly precarious balcony because you've got a really good view of the transepts.
The transepts that cut across the three arches at two separate points within the station were originally included in the design because Brunel intended to install a hydraulic mechanism here that allowed engines and carriages to be turned around faster, reducing the amount of time spent between a train coming in and going back out again. But the money was never provided to allow the equipment to be installed, and so they never saw their full potential. Next, our first secret bit, because Paddington is at the western end of the Post Office Railway.
Platform 7 and Platform 8 is there. This is where I need my hard hat, because at the back of the Burger King kiosk, where you've probably bought a greasy burger on a Friday night, you didn't realise, but this door here leads down to Mail Rail. And this door is unfortunately locked, but behind here are steps that take you down to the Mail Rail at Paddington. It's still actually in use. I mean, they're not running actual trains, but they have to check the integrity of the tunnels to make sure that they're okay. About once a month, a man will come down, maybe walking, maybe in a service train, check everything is okay here at Paddington, and then head back to Mount Pleasant again.
This innocuous-looking door, which you may spot on the concourse, is another way in to the defunct Post Office railway system.
We're now in the area of Paddington Station known as the Lawns. You may know this as retail and coffee shops. But did you know that back in the early 2000s, this was a check-in area? If you were getting a flight out to Heathrow, you could come here and check in your baggage too.
To allow for bag drop at Paddington Station, a purpose-built tunnel just to convey the baggage onto Heathrow trains was installed, but it now lies redundant and disused.
The conveyor belt system was installed so that it had a top deck and a lower deck, and they would alternate the running of it so that the motors didn't overheat. But since the removal of the service, we've actually taken a lot of this conveyor belt system away. Unfortunately, because of the size of it, it's had to be taken away in small sections and walked off the station.
There's part of me that wants to just get on it and slide down, but I won't, obviously. That would be silly.
In its operational days, sliding along the conveyor belt would have got me in trouble with security.
It's one of the old motors, Dusty, which obviously used to drive the conveyor belt system. We've just learnt a great fact as well, is that because you've checked in your bag, and this is a customs area, the only people that were allowed in this area were those that had customs clearance. As soon as your bag was in this area, it had passed through customs. You can hear the trains above.
The trains are literally a few inches above our head, and further on down we find an old subway passageway which passengers used to be able to use to connect between platforms.
This concrete, as you can see, has plugged a gap. There are stairs, or there used to be stairs, up until the early 90s that take you up to platforms 8 and 9. This whole corridor that I'm in now used to be a public subway that you could go from one side of the station to the other, and basically when the Heathrow check-in desk was built and that conveyor belt was built, it kind of cut all through this, and this then became disused. But look, you can see old blue tiles. This was a public area. Posters used to be here, and it's just sat here, dusty, dormant and disused, and it's brilliant.
So having successfully navigated Paddington below, it was time to go to the other place that we'd come here for, Paddington above. Now there are 4 roof spans at Paddington. Numbers 1 to 3 are currently being refurbished, but we climbed up onto number 4, which was refurbished a few years ago when the new taxi rank on the northern side of the station was built.
I'm always the first to be an advocate of keep your eyes open, London, when you're travelling. It's not just grime and trains, there's cool things to see, and I've seen something myself today that I've never seen for the first time. I've been through Paddington countless number of times, and I'm guilty of not looking up. This is an original Art Deco building from the original station with the letters GWR Paddington, you know, big, massive on the side, and I'm just wondering, why have I never seen that before?
We went down the other end, passengers, small tiny creatures down below, to check out the view from there.
We're at the western end, so over here you can see all the GWR train lines coming in. Down there you've got the Hammersmith and City and Circle line, and then over there you've got the canal. It's great. Pretty cool view.